Hey everybody, this is Tim Stafford. Real quick before we get to the meat and potatoes of today's episode, I just wanted to pop in real quick and make sure that you guys have a reminder and some details for the next Heated conversation, which is actually coming up this Friday, February 7th. The event is titled, Will the 2020 Election Divide the Church? Our very own Tim Gombis, who you guys are all familiar with, is coming into Orange County to be there to talk about this topic with a moderator named Paul Martin. And I think it's going to be a rad conversation. Obviously, you guys have gotten some little tidbits, some little tasty morsels from Gombis in regards to faith and politics in the past. This is an opportunity, if you're in the Orange County area, to come and hear him go in a little bit more depth, to ask questions. It is it's an event where the audience members can interact and ask questions while they're there. The event is free. However, you need to register and get tickets because space is limited. So if you haven't done so yet, do so quickly. You can find Heated on Instagram at Heated Convo, HEATED CONVO. And from there you can hit the link in their bio, and you can register for tickets. So you guys should all come out and hang out. I'm gonna fly down and be there. I think I'm gonna be playing music beforehand, warming up the crowd. Love to see you, love to meet you. So come on down, Orange County, Heated, this Friday, February 7th at 7 p.m. Tickets in the bio at Heated Convo. Hopefully I'll see you there. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to the Vox Podcast. Bonnie Lewis and Tim Stafford here in Austin, Texas and Auburn, California, respectively. And we have a very special guest. Bonnie, would you please introduce our guest?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. We are joined today with my new friend, Jenny Smith. So Jenny and I met back in October. We both went to a communication event of Rob Bell's in LA. And Jenny was there, and I was just so intrigued to meet her. She is a fellow woman in ministry, but in a different denomination. And she has her own story that we want to talk to her about today and sort of just unravel a few things. So, Jenny, thank you so much for being here. And you're calling in from Seattle, right?
Yes, so glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, why don't you give the listeners, tell us just like high view, who you are, what you like to do for fun, married, kids, etc.
You got it. Yeah, my name is Jenny, and I'm 37 and a half. I will claim the half, like my 5 and 8 year old will. Been married almost 15 years to Aaron.
Oh, that's awesome.
So long for us. He's a woodworker here just north of Seattle.
And that sounds perfect.
Isn't it? It's a perfect job.
I don't know. It feels like that area, like woodwork. I feel like I thought about that while I was just up there. Like,
yeah,
everything's so woody and beautiful.
It is. It's supernatural. And so we try to bring that out. He's so good at it. I have an 8-year-old, Isabella, who just turned 8 on New Year's Eve, and Wesley is 5, and he starts kindergarten this fall. So my whole life will change.
Yes.
And yeah, born in Ohio. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye. And
oh my gosh, too bad Mike's not here. He would be so thrilled. Mike loves the Buckeyes.
Mike's Patronus is the Ohio State Buckeye defensive line.
Yeah. We had a Patronus episode. What was mine? Oh, a dolphin. I forgot.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Are you a fan of Harry Potter, Jenny?
I am not. I haven't ever gotten into that.
Jenny,
yet.
That's okay because there's always time.
There's always time.
So you can always dig in whenever that feels right for you. So Jenny, you are a pastor. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And on the Methodist denomination, and just for folks that don't know, so a lot of our listeners, like I told you, are either evangelical still or have just come out of evangelicalism. But can you talk to us a little bit about the Methodist denomination, like in your words, sort of what sets you apart, and even in your own journey, what drew you to that denomination?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, the United Methodist Church tradition. One, I would kind of say I didn't have a choice. In some ways, I grew up in it, and my dad is a United Methodist pastor, just
Okay.
retired after 40 years. And so definitely, those first couple of decades, that was going to be where I went to church. And then I married my husband, and it turns out his dad is also a United Methodist pastor.
Oh, so you were really sort of in it then.
So like just drinking the water. But I did have this season in seminary. I felt a call to go to seminary, or felt a call to be a pastor when I was 17. So then after undergrad, took a year or two off and then went to seminary in my late 20s and had this moment where I thought, there was a little bit of a train wreck in our denomination. I'm sure that's never a problem in the circles you all run in.
No, it's
Never.
smooth sailing.
Smooth
So this will be interesting. No, go ahead.
Yeah, like this was when I was in seminary, and we were always arguing over everything, especially around human sexuality. And I just thought, is this worth working in this world? And so I did what any seminary student did. I checked out a video camera from our school, and I went to our general conference. It's like our national gathering every 4 years.
Yeah.
And I just went around the hallways interviewing everyone I could get to say yes, asking them, why are you a part of this denomination? What gives you hope? Why are you still in this? And by the time I finished editing all that, I was like, okay, I'm in.
Wow.
United Methodists are people. John Wesley is very much the founder of who we are, of this reform movement in England that then came to the US a couple hundred years ago, and very much all about grace. The other thing they really hold is that we don't check our head at the door. And so they really hold together our head and our heart, and that social witness, social justice is very much a part of our faith. You can't get the personal without the social outward aspect. And so all of that together just always called to me.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Talk to me about what that looks like, not checking your head at the door. I'm fascinated by that. I've been to many churches, not just in evangelical, but like other ones too, where it hasn't felt like that. And me being somebody that really likes to study and use my head in my faith, like even sometimes I think more so than my heart. That has been a rough spot for me. So what is that like? How does that play out?
Yeah, I remember back to my confirmation class when I was 13 years old. Now, granted, my dad was my confirmation teacher, so that's kind of goes either way. Yeah, like, am I going to argue with my dad? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I was definitely taught, and by him and by our church growing up, that God could handle our doubt. That God was big enough for my anger, my wondering, my questions, my struggle. And so I always grew up that faith was really strong, that God was tough, and that my pulling the thread on some of my beliefs to see what might unravel underneath was never a bad thing. And that it so often led to a stronger faith because I actually had wrestled with it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating to grow up with that outlook at such a young age. Because like one of the things we always talk about is that in the evangelical church especially, doubts aren't welcome. And we
I was in my 30s when that was starting to get reconciled.
Yes, yeah, it was. And like doubts weren't welcome. And like you said, sort of unraveling to pulling on the thread to see what would unravel. I can't tell you the amount of times we've seen pastors say that. And when they say it though, and Tim, maybe you can agree with me on this one, but like that episode we did where we interviewed, was it Marty Sampson, when he was saying like, I just have all these doubts and questions, and like immediately the church jumps on him as like, oh gosh, you don't believe, like your entire faith is unraveling. It's like this big sort of problem. So gosh, what a gift to be given that permission at such a young age.
And now I'm serving in churches where some of our primary ministry is simply being present to people who were always told they couldn't ever wrestle and question. So sometimes it almost feels like all we're doing is wrestling and questioning, which is still healthy because we still have this really strong foundation of, hey, here's all the things that we can challenge. Let's challenge them together. And underneath that bedrock, God still exists for us. Love is still here, but let's keep putting some new language and some new experience to who God is for us.
Yeah. I'm curious, what did you end up doing with the all the video footage?
Yeah, can we see that, Jenny?
It is hidden away somewhere. Oh my gosh, I just started a new YouTube channel for a podcast I want to start later this year, and I resurrected some of it. Oh,
Yes.
2008. It looks rough.
I love you're so dear to my heart that you just said you resurrected it. I'm always saying Bible language for normal things, and you just made me feel so normal. Oh, awesome. Well, so with the way that you're describing this now, like the people in your congregation, tell me what that's like. Tell me what it's like to be a woman pastor in your space. For me, in the evangelical tradition, and our listeners have heard this, so I'll just say it fast because we don't need to like drag it out, but it's been rough. Women aren't accepted as pastors. Like there's a huge debate over it, which you know about, but even then, like it's really not sort of this freedom tale. So what has it been like for you? I would love to meet a woman who was thriving, but I also am under no guise. Like some of these things, like you said, our denomination isn't perfect. Like some of these things are human problems. So I just would love to hear your story about that. What has it been like?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've had a lot of stories on here recently as we've kind of been digging through, and then while we're digging through how women in leadership have been viewed and treated, things like the Beth Moore situation, different things all kind of popped up in the middle of that. So we've been spending a lot of time. I don't know if you saw Bonnie and Mike spoke at the heated event about why they changed their minds about women in leadership. And so it's been a long conversation that we've been having, and we were really excited to get some female voices that are doing it and are thriving and are like in that position and in that role. And so just as a framework for kind of where we have been over the last, 6 months or so.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. So again, I grew up in a tradition and denomination where that was accepted from day one. And now there were nuances to that aren't. So, I mean, now, again, I'm 37. I was lead pastor at my church when I turned 33 was the first time that I had been an associate for about 5 years before that, with senior pastors, all male senior pastors who gave me incredible amounts of authority and respect and gave me the world when it came to the ministry. And so I still get the phone calls and wait, you're the senior pastor? Like that still happens. But honestly, that's like the most. Yeah. So I was just born into this thing where I felt this call and this stirring at 17 years old, and I didn't have the baggage. I didn't have the walls there that would already put this other narrative in my head that said I wasn't worthy. Now I still had to wrestle my own junk like we all do about worthy of the call, but I didn't have the female one. It never really entered into the conversation. And so what's interesting now I'm learning in leadership as I continue to grow in my own sense of call is that I actually am learning that there's this, like male spirit and female spirit to leadership, and that we both have these different elements and characteristics. So what I'm actually learning about being a woman in leadership is that I early on identified, well, most men in leadership have this power. And so if I want to succeed and be accomplished, then I should lead like them. And what I've been looking for the last 5 or 6 years are women in more complex settings than me, because I'm so fascinated how the women are leading. And we have to lead in the same way. So what I'm fascinated now is what I feel like I am practicing now and finding some fruit in is how does a woman lead well? And how does she thrive in her own unique way? And that is so fun to uncover and to feel like I've got the support of all of these men around me who say, you do lead differently, and maybe we actually are ready for some of that.
Gosh, that would be like I was going to say healing, but what a gift. To have this perspective of we need both. Right? Because usually we swing, right? Like it's either all men or then out of anger or sadness or whatever it might be. Like, no, we don't need the men. We just need the women. We just need the women. but to say like, hey, we're co-leaders here and we need both. Yeah. So that reminds me so much when men and women co-lead of that passage in Ezekiel. Ezekiel 37, when it's the valley of dry bones, and it uses the masculine pronoun for Yahweh, and then it uses the feminine pronoun for spirit. And when we include that feminine picture in there, we see like this masculine and feminine kind of this push and pull, and they're working together. It's just like such a beautiful picture of what can happen when both seats are at the table. And so I really love that. Like, what a cool thing for you to be able to embark on that. And I think you're right. I often have seen, and we see it all the time, but women lead, and part of it in more of a masculine space, or even like a masculine way, only because it's what we have an example of. Especially, I think, in the evangelical church, like I can often think, I was always like, I don't know who I look up to in that way. I don't know anybody. There hasn't been anybody that's come before me. So what a beautiful gift that you hold, that not only have you received that, but you get to give that to your children and your congregation as well.
Yeah. One of the coolest things that we did a year or so ago, we had this district retreat. So there were 50 or 60 clergy, men and women, all generations. And they invited myself and a few of our colleagues to put together this day, and it was all about vulnerability and sharing. And let's talk about the competition and comparison and isolation and cynicism in ministry with our colleagues. And I went first and shared my stuff and shared my stories of feeling like I'm in competition with my colleagues. And that we're not human, and that we always have to hold each other in arm's length. And then by the end of the day, we passed a mic around and took turns standing up, and we finished this statement: if you really knew me, you would know.
Yeah.
And then we watched as men and women, all generations, took turns answering that. And in that moment, all of my competition, men and women, became so human. And it was a powerful example of, okay, here's what this more feminine spirit of leadership can bring to the table. It was really good.
That's awesome. That is really cool. So talk to me about what it is, how you say some of the ways that you are uncovering that. What are you doing now? What's different? What would you say is like, gosh, I really have found some fruit here, as you said earlier?
Yeah, I have. This one's interesting because on one hand, like I'll say this and then I'll backtrack, but here's what I would say. When I have run in circles with a lot of other male leadership, we throw around the word ego, and it means a lot. There's a whole lot in that word. Ego is a good thing. And also there's this shadow side to it where this thing is more about us than it is about faith and spirituality and God. And I would like to think on my best days, what I bring to the table is a fairly low sense of ego, that I'm very much team oriented, very collaborative. Everyone's gifts on the table. Let's do this together. And yeah, someone's got to lead sometimes and make the hard call, but this partnership, and that I think has been a really wonderful thing to bring. I have a really big passion around a contemplative stance called Palms Up. Talk
to us about that. Tell us about that, how you fell into it and what it is, because I think our listeners would be so interested.
Yeah. So I learned it from two people and then put it together, and it became a thing. And so Dr. Elaine Heath is a fantastic scholar and leader in a lot of circles I run in. And she developed and pulled from someone else this contemplative stance. And it has 4 steps to it. First, we show up, and then we pay attention. We cooperate with God, and then we release the outcome. And then a few years later, I read Bob Goff's book, Love Does. And in there, he tells this awesome story about, being in a deposition with a client and saying, hey, when you're nervous, I want you to put your hands under the table on your knees, palms up, because it's impossible to feel defensive if your hands are open. And he talked about, if I see you close up your hands in fear, I'm going to kick you under the table. And so the more I thought about that, and I don't know if he said it or someone else did, but the position of our body often reflects the position of our heart. And so somewhere along the line, like a good preacher knows a good phrase when they see one,
Yeah,
palms,
exactly.
palms up. I'm like, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So for the last decade, I've just been practicing it and preaching it in my own little circles. And it's been transformational. Yeah. Part of my story is a lot of high functioning anxiety and panic attacks. And I would get
For
them
you
when
personally?
yeah, for me. And when I would get them when I was preaching, that was the worst.
Like while you're actually in the middle of
Yes.
preaching. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, here I am, 33 years old.
Yeah.
And in this very like new role, new authority, new power, trying to prove to everyone that I could do this. I mean, that just had the makings for a breakdown. And then we had our presidential election, and no matter what way you saw that, it's been stressful.
Yeah.
And so all of that, I hit the wall and started to have all these panic attacks. And so the palms up method and tons of therapy has helped me like go deeper and deeper and deeper, because it's just this beautiful rhythm.
Oh, I love that. And I appreciate your vulnerability there. I'll admit, I often like when I hear, and I suffer from anxiety and some depression and some OCD, which is so fun. But I've gotten a lot of help through EMDR. Therapy. Yeah, I've done tons of talk therapy, but EMDR is like, and you know what's funny is we had an episode on mental illness and we all kind of talked about our struggles, and it was our listeners that were like, you should try EMDR. So I'm like, okay. And I did, and it has changed me. It has changed me for sure. But when I would love to, if we could pause for a minute there on saying, like when you said, like, I'm 33 and I'm preaching and I'm having to prove myself, and I heard you say the words isolation and fear. When I see, so like in the evangelical church, we're just discussing this, is it feels like it's an epidemic of like this head male pastor, and it's just his male because we're evangelicals, but it could be anybody. And there's so much authority and like, Tim, what's the word? What am I looking for? Like people expect him to be a certain somebody all the time. And it's so isolating. And so mental illness is just like running rampant. Like even just this past year in the headlines, there's been just suicide after suicide after suicide. And it just feels like the system is broken. Like somewhere here, we're just not getting it right, because either we're holding pastors up to a standard that's not okay, or they don't have the freedom to be human. So can you speak into that a bit? Because in my worst days, I would love to pretend that it's our system and it's because there's no women up there, but that's not true. Like I said, it's a human problem. So could you speak into that? Like what does that feel like?
Yeah. So on one of mine, and I tell this story, it happened 3 or 4 years ago. I was in the middle of a sermon and I finally decided this was ridiculous and I was going to stop my sermon. And I told my church what was happening. We had 3 services that morning, and this was my traditional crew.
Okay. Right.
Everyone's in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I tell them what's happening. I hang my head. Tears are running down my cheeks. I close my eyes like I had failed.
So you're up there.
Yeah.
And you just start having a panic attack.
Yeah. And so I was trying to hold it together, thinking I can just read this thing and get out of here. But I didn't. I stopped. And all of a sudden I feel 5 or 6 hands on my shoulders and my head. And 5 or 6 people had come up and started praying for me. So that happens. They sit down. I look up and I'm like, I don't know if I can finish my sermon today. And this 82-year-old in the second row pipes up, I think we had our sermon for today.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So at that moment, that's where everything shifted. Is I, as the leader, chose not to buy into this story that we just keep passing each other as leaders, that they can't ever really see us.
Yeah.
And granted, I know there's boundaries and ethics, and it is so important. And like, I never got a class at seminary that taught me it was okay to be myself.
Yeah, neither did I. Yeah.
None of us did. And so I honestly, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's also a value of our millennial generation.
Yeah.
That we really value authenticity. And so at that moment, I thought, whatever, I don't want to do this anymore if I can't be if this part of me can't see the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
And once I was able to share it with them, now our church is on fire about reducing the stigma around mental illness. And we can talk about a million things in the middle of worship because I went first.
Yeah. Wow.
And then in the end of that, I'm the one that's saved because I'm free. Because now I can talk in appropriate ways about what I'm learning about my mental health. And there are still times I get caught back up in the story. Oh, they can't know. No, that's a lie.
Yeah. Gosh. And what a beautiful thing that it happened like in the middle of it. Like what a moment of grace there. That it wasn't something you had to come up like in a feeling like it was something you had to be ashamed of or whatever, but to be able to say like, hey, this right now is happening. And so what did it, you said that was a shift in terms of saying, I just decided not to buy into that narrative anymore. But what did that do in terms of, feeling isolated or any of the pressures you felt? Like, does that dismantle some of it?
It did. Right. Brene Brown says in our circles, we call her Saint Brene Brown. I know she's not perfect, but man, she's got some good stuff.
Her books are good. Yeah.
They're solid stuff. She always says it's hard to hate people close up.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that has been true for me and my colleagues. I started to blog about this and write about it a few months after I kind of came out of some good healing time. And every single time was met with me too. Me too. Me too. So now I'm like, okay, if it helps, I'll go first and I'll share this. Cause now it's just a story in my past. Like I still struggle with anxiety for sure, but it is not nearly as bad as it was. And so I'm like, we'll just keep going first. So I think that's what we're invited to do with vulnerability is, we're all just trying to follow Jesus. We come at it from a million different perspectives and we're all holding things that we think if anyone finds out, we're done. And really when we can start to share some of those, like that's the work of discipleship. That's the work of accountability. And let's actually practice that.
So that is so good. And so what would you say to our pastor listeners who are like, I'm in hiding about anything, but especially their mental illness and how I don't know how to be the first one. I don't know what to do. I'm not sure. What would you tell them?
Gosh, that was me for so long. Like at somewhere I just signed an agreement somewhere that no one could ever know. And granted, there's some imposter syndrome in there too. Like if anyone ever finds out that I don't know what I'm doing, that's like the worst thing in the world. And for me, if I was still in that place, what I would maybe want to hear, the beautiful thing about Jesus is in the United Methodist tradition, we talk about prevenient grace, that God is at work in us before we're even aware. And that grace, it just kept calling me forward. And part of me would want to say that when I was stuck in it, I wish I could say, oh, God wasn't using me, but then God used me when I was free of the hiding of that. But what's crazy is that God keeps using us even in the middle of our brokenness. We know that in theory, but it's hard to live. And so there's just beautiful, messy grace that even when we're hiding, God is still preaching through us and calling people into freedom, even when we're not free. And yet what is possible when we are willing to take that step that we invite everyone else to? Because it is so easy to teach stuff surprisingly and not be practicing it. Like that just creeps me out how easy that is. And it happens in every field, right? Doctors maybe don't take care of themselves. Like it happens all over the place. But that, I guess at some point I just had this really internal decision, and maybe it's because I'm an Enneagram 1 and like I must be just like pure and good. I thought I can't do this for another 30 or 40 years if I don't deal with this now. The other part of my story is I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia 20 years ago already, right about when I was 17.
Wow.
And I knew my body can only handle so much stress before I literally can't even hold a job. And so I just had kind of extenuating circumstances that made it impossible to keep hiding it.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's also unique.
Yeah, that is unique. But also, you connected the dots, which I think is unique. Some people would really see that separately. Like I have all this stress and I have this thing, but I also now have been diagnosed with this, versus like, oh, one of these is affecting the other, and how can I put them together, and how can I set them free from each other? So I think that's
the big thing too is that you listened and you answered in a very stressful, stereotypically inopportune moment to say, hey, I'm not in a good spot right now or whatever. And I think that the normal way to do that is to be like, take a breath and power through and be like, I'll deal with my stuff on the other side of this Sunday morning. And then by next Sunday next Sunday, I'll deal with next Sunday. Yeah. So I think it's really interesting because we, regardless of your denomination, everyone's always had those moments of like pastors encouraging you to feel the Spirit and to react to this and that or that or this. And I wonder, it's just such an interesting thing to be, and you said at the beginning, the head and the heart and the connection between those two things, and how confusing it can be to listen to one over the other rather than kind of letting both of them be in dialogue with each other. I think is such an interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's part of what anxiety does, is just traps you up in your brain that you think whatever moment you're in right now will last forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then your body just goes offline because you can't handle both. And so again, therapy, death, resurrection, Easter, all of the goodness, and that palms up thing gave me the practice, the muscle memory that I was always showing up and paying attention. And I was always showing up to stuff I didn't want to show up to.
Right.
But then I somehow knew in that rhythm. And I always like to say I'm addicted to resurrection, because you get one breakthrough and I just start chasing the next one. So actually what's weird about me, especially as an Enneagram 1 who's always wanting to improve myself, my growth area is actually sometimes just to chill out and receive grace because I'm good enough.
Right.
So, yeah.
Gosh, I was just reading this thing. Sometimes I read books about quantum physics, and which is really weird because if you knew it, I'm not typically, but for some reason it's really caught me. So anyways, but something
I love all thoughts and sentences that start this way. Yeah. Sometimes I sit down and crack open a nice book of quantum physics, and
it's such a nerd. Anyways, but something you just said reminded me of something I was reading today, and it was saying when your brain has a thought, it develops a chemical. And that chemical then goes to your body, and then your body responds to that chemical because it's the body's goal is my feeling in my body is going to match what I'm thinking in my head. And I was reading that, and then I had remembered something my therapist had said, which she said, the reason why anxiety is so exhausting is that when you have a thought in your brain, and like you just said, and it just goes on a loop, your whole body responds chemically and with its feelings and emotions and even just physically as to what it would be like to actually live that moment out. And so when you're done with a panic attack or something like that, your body and brain thinks it's literally lived that out. And when someone said that to me, that was a moment for me to be like, oh yeah, I gotta fix this because I am so weak and so tired. I can't show up for my own life. And like you said, having something that alerted you. And that's the other thing I want to say about when Tim said that too, about when we're in services and people are like, what the Spirit's saying. I love that because you were in the rhythm of showing up and paying attention, is that I think sometimes we have, and especially in my upbringing in the evangelical church, this idea that the Spirit moving is always going to be with this swell of music and this beautiful way, and it's going to call me to this big thing. But for you, because you're in practice, because you have the rhythm of showing up and paying attention, you saw, gosh, the Spirit's moving here right now, in the middle of this really hard time. And that in itself is an invitation, not I'm pushing this away and I'm going to find the good invitation of no, there is good here and there's something to respond to in this moment. And so maybe
Yeah.
the pastors, like, I would love to, where can we point them to Palms Up? Because I would love to have that be something that someone can look up and like find a rhythm for all of us. But where can we find that? And then I would be loving if you could give us ways that this could help us in conversations when we all don't agree. We're heading into that lovely election season, and that feels relevant.
I hear you. That's a fantastic question, friend. But first, yeah, so I am just responding to this increased invitation only in the last 3 or 4 months that this Palms Up thing wants to take up more room in the world. And I've been already battling it for 2 years, kind of telling it to shut up. like, can you go away now? I have stuff to do in my job. I don't know what the deal is. But like, it's ridiculous how clear Spirit has been to say, Jenny, this is a thing. And if you're willing to steward it, like, here we go. And so, yeah. So just did a new website, and it's Palms Up. It's palmsup.co. Okay. Everyone thinks it's .com, but it's not. It's .co.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook at Jenny Smith Writes. Okay. And post about it a lot there every day. And I'm going to do a Palms Up leadership podcast later this year.
Oh, fun.
And Bonnie, you're going to visit me on that.
Oh, yay. That would be awesome. I would love that. I better get in the rhythm, though.
That's right. You better start practicing.
I should do that. Yeah. So, like, go ahead. No, go ahead. I was just going to say some of these things, like, we can do it for big things, but I always say, and I always think, like, the way I do everything is the way I do anything is the way I do everything. So how can I show up to, with this contemplative stance, to some of these hard topics that we don't want to show up to? Honestly.
I hear you. Yeah. There's some headlines that I still stick my head in the sand. Like, it's just all so much. So for me, whenever I kind of remember to practice, right, which is sometimes 5 times a day, sometimes it's once a week, it is very much okay, taking a deep breath, and whatever's going on in front of me, I'm going to show up for it. And then the first step for me is mess and all. Like, I don't wait till I feel great. I don't wait till I'm in the right headspace. I'm just like, oh, boom, right now, snap. What's going on around me? I'm going to show up. And then once I'm there, it's very much this deeper inner seeing, which is to me, the heart and eyes and mind of Christ. Like, what is going on around me? What are the headlines I want to ignore? And here I'm going to actually click through this article and read it to the end. Who's the person in front of me who is a huge distraction today? And I really wish they would, remove themselves from my bubble. And yet they're right here, and I get to pay attention to that. And so it's just all this, like, I call it, like, we become expert noticers of all of these little details of our life and people. And then when we can choose to cooperate with God, we only do that because we realize that God's already here. Okay, so this is my favorite part of Palms Up, actually, is cooperate with God. And here's why. I think a lot of us grew up with this sense that we are missionaries and that we are to take God to people.
Yes.
And my life changed the day I realized that God was already there. God is already everywhere. God is already at work in everyone's life, whether they know it or not, or they even call it God. Love, that simple, love is alive in the world. And so the pressure is off because I'm not bringing God to people anymore. I'm just noticing that God's already doing something, and I'm going to cooperate. I'm going to co-create. I'm going to join with. And the moment I realized that, so much stress fell away. Because God's already throwing the party, and I just get to, like, join in. And then we release outcomes all over the place, which then releases, for me, it gives God so much room to work. Because I'm not marching in with my own agenda and my own preference and manipulating the situation. So releasing the outcome has helped so much. It doesn't mean we're not responsible. So that can get a little nuanced. But yeah, just that rhythm. Man, it helps so much when I don't agree with people, because it gives me that extra moment of contemplation to sit back and realize, but God, you could be talking through this person.
Right, to you.
And maybe they have something for me. And it's not just my agenda at work here. And it really just makes you a student of your life, which then, gosh, I feel so much more fully alive that way.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And seeing it as such an invitation to grow and to engage and to learn. And to co-create, like you said, what more beautiful stance than I'm coming in this knowing we're going to disagree and knowing we're going to butt heads and it's not going to end well. So
yeah, and I like that. I really like that no agenda. And I think that you can hear the response being that it does that you're trying to avoid responsibility, but you can see that the responsibility changes a ton.
Yeah.
And it doesn't decrease. It just, the focus is very different. And I like that too, because you can see the agenda just, as all of us have grown up in, it sounds like various forms of ministry. Man, those agendas can be real buzz killers. It's just like kind of just take the air out of the room sometimes. And so I think that's really interesting. And that really works too in those hard conversations of being there. And, we are such a polarized country politically, but we're also, the Christian faith is also so fragmented and polarized. And we could all do with a little bit more intentional listening or intentional conversation. And
right.
Yeah.
And inward contemplation. Yeah.
I use it all the time in meetings because as one of the senior leaders in the room, I've got a plan.
Totally.
Right.
I've got a preference here. And so just, oh my gosh, the lesson in humility every single time to just take a deep breath at some point in that meeting and go, Jenny, let it go.
Yeah.
And often we may wander around to where I would have taken it anyways, but it felt like I didn't steer it. And so maybe that was the Spirit at work in the room and people moved that way together. And it happens so often that now I just trust it so much.
That's cool.
I'm a big nitpicker, and there was years of church where I just sat there and was angry and picked apart sermons and just never grew or learned a thing. And finally came to a place where I was like, I'd be in church, and if I was distracted or felt myself frustrated, I would just stop and pray, even if it was 10 or 15 times during a service. I'd just be like, I know you're here. I know you're working. I know you have something you'd like to do here. And it may be a million different things for a million people, or maybe one thing. I don't, but I want to be present and open and aware of that and participate in that, and not just have an idea in my head of what it should be and then get nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing but
like, I can't
frustration
believe that I didn't learn about X, Y, and Z in there. And everyone's looking at you like, why are you so mad?
Well, I think it's so interesting. There's just different. This is such a great conversation and great idea, and I would love to I didn't go to seminary, but I have gathered as much that this is not something that this is not a class you take, right?
No.
And you read about that in different professions. Like there's certain things that they just don't carve out time for it, and it always ends up kind of being self-care to a certain extent. Like different versions of self-care for, intense people that work in, intensive care units in the hospital and different things. Like they're doing these profound works, but there's just not a lot of space to make sure that they are healthy and thriving. And it'd be such a great, if we could integrate these kind of thoughts and this kind of intentions in year one of seminary, or even not even that, year one of Sunday school,
right?
Way before the ministry.
Yeah. And what's crazy, so we start every single worship service with this big deep breath in and out, and everyone's got their hands up if they want, as palms up. And so now our little kids have totally picked all of that up, and parents will send me pictures of them at home at dinner, eyes closed with their hands, palms up. And so they get this more than we do, because the kids are so trusting anyways. They don't need to unlearn that yet. But
something about that heart of a child.
I know. I want to be a kid at your church.
Someone spoke to that once.
Yeah.
I know. They're so smart.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Jenny, thank you so much for being on here and sharing your wisdom. And I'm so excited to start this in my life. I'm always looking for more ways that I can soften myself, because I can do a lot without thinking. So I'm excited to put this into my life, and I hope you guys follow her. And we'll put all of your links and things like that on the show notes and on social media so people can find you. But hey, also to put you on the spot. So Mike used to read this blessing and I can't remember the blessing for the life of me. And Tim has done a good job writing it down, but I would love if you could send us off with like a little benediction or a blessing or something like that for us and our listeners.
Got it. You got it. Yes.
And I'm going to sit with my palms up because I would love to.
Your palms up. You got it, girl. Okay. May we leave from this moment in the grace and peace and mercy of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Knowing that we are loved just exactly as we are in this ridiculous moment, mess and all. And knowing that Spirit invites us to projects and ways of being and relationships and postures and freedom that we can only begin to imagine. May we this week and these days to come trust God with so much courage and so much joy. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you for having me.